speaker is Mr. John Auchettl. He was born in 1955 in New Guinea into a medical family. He left Papua New Guinea in 1970 to take up university studies, army life and a career in aviation. His education qualifications include physics, electronics, computer science and aviation. He is currently a commercial pilot working in the aviation industry. He enjoys science, art, politics and strange phenomena, which he has researched for over 20 years. He has been editor and librarian for the Victorian UFO Research Society. At present, he is the Director of Research at Phenomena Research Australia, or PRA, and it was founded in 1969. It is not a society, but a research collective. It researches all UFO crop circles and strange phenomena, and PRA gets over 800 calls a year, 1,100 letters a year. They do field and photo and video analysis, and run a reports and database computer. It reports numerous articles and reports to various scientific books, newspapers, journals and periodicals, with a number of Australian and overseas TV productions. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome John Auchettl. He'll be speaking about Min Min Lights, Wonjiba and Koori.
Right, well, first, welcome to all the early starters. It's Sunday, I realise. I must first warn you that, on the welcome, that I originally planned for a 45-minute to an hour conference speaking session, but we're down to 20 minutes to really do a lot of work, and so I'm going to go through it very quickly. If you want to stop me, please do. It's important that you get the information, and I'll suggest later on when I present the papers sometime this week when I get them printed up, the details are in the papers, so I'm just giving you an overview. The problem is that in this lecture here, I'm trying to present in 20 minutes 50,000 years of Koori history, so as you can see it's an impossible task, so please forgive me for that. Another thing I want to say about this is a pet subject of mine, but I'm not an expert in Koori information, and if I make mistakes, please forgive me, and if I offend anybody out there, it's not intentional, it's just the fact that I'm not an expert in it, and it is a very complex area. Also, we're dealing with a wonderful heritage. We're very lucky in this country. We're one of the few countries in the world which we have this type of heritage available, and I think it's something that needs to be brought out more in UFO circles and in other society, and we should respect the fact that we've got this wonderful history available to us. I've been investigating this subject for a number of years, but again, I'm not an expert in the field. It's more of a private investigation that actually goes on. Another warning I'd like to give you, it's a massive field. As I said, it's 50,000 years of information. It's important to realise that Australia is a time capsule, and it's a land of great mysteries, and in fact it's probably one of the most mysterious lands in the world when you look at it, even beyond belief, because we've got a continuous line of history. To introduce you on this Sunday is this OHP that came from the Sun Herald in Melbourne. Especially on the Sunday, all these people going around in a circle are being sucked into a vortice, so I presume if you've been drinking last night or tried to get through yesterday's big program, you may feel like this. So that's what life's like, people going around in circles. That's my life anyway, so that's just a few introductions on that. Well, let's get involved with this. I don't want to get into too much detail about the basic part of the Koori information, because you can go and get that out of most books. They've better productions, but I'll just go over it very quickly in these ideas. The main basis to the Koori mystery is the dream time. It's an important part of their culture. They are a very religious people. That's the first thing I want you to note. They have a very long religion line, and they have practiced a very precise process of passing down information. And this has been going on for a long time. Now, the problem that most researchers face is that when you pass information to the next generation, it gets biased and full of garbage as it goes on. But in regards to the Koori information, the Aboriginal information, it's passed down very precise. It's quite extraordinary, and that's due to rituals. And Joseph Campbell, I don't know if you know Joseph Campbell, who indicated, he's deceased now, he indicated that through our rituals that we get our understanding of the world. We actually base our knowledge through our rituals, and consequently in the world we live in today, we've lost all our rituals. In fact, we're a nation looking for rituals, and consequently most of us at football, that's about the biggest thing we're available, following rugby or the union. However, this is the important thing. The Koori have a very ritual-based item which passes data down. So don't underestimate what they do, because it has a lot of data in it. Now, I'm going to go through certain subjects which are interesting to us as ufologists, because the field opens up, takes in all gamuts of ideas. The first thing I want to bring is what I call is the time field theory. Unlike we, as the Westerners, we believe time flows continuously, and it does feel like that. However, in the Aborigine way of thinking things, they find time as being a field. In other words, a field which you can walk in and you can move in. In other words, multi-dimensional, and it's not a moving thing, but a fixed thing. In fact, the funny thing about that, they may be actually leaders in quantum physics, because in fact, the way physics is operating nowadays is that we're looking at the way physics is going these days, that actually we live in a world of field, and it's actually a field that you can move in a lot of sense. Our impression that it moves is not actually probably correct. So the Kooris are probably advanced beyond our actual technology in the sense that they think it's actually a field that we're moving. That's a multi-dimensional process, and that's another important feature to their idea. The other thing that I find interesting about the Koori phenomena, or corporate phenomena, is the fact that they have quite a good heritage of drawings. They're not wonderful drawings compared to what we can find in the Western culture, because we tend to look on making it very visual. However, they pass a lot of information down through their drawings. Now, the first slide up here indicates the pre-Ice Age layout of Australia. I won't go into the details how they got here, but the actual, as you notice, the general description of the Koori was that the Aborigine race was that they were nomads. However, this is now being disproven. They actually had a very strong cultural exchange and barter system, and as you can see from that slide, that they covered all of Australia. However, the area that I'm interested in, which involves us mostly, is up this area here between the Kimberley Zone and the Gulf District, and also northern Queensland here. In this area is quite rich in artefacts and paintings and things of that nature, which are important to us, which I'll demonstrate in a few minutes. Flip up to this slide here. This gives you this is the demographics, which are pretty well standardised through Australia, listing the different cultural areas. However, there's quite a few variations within these areas, but you can see up here the Kimberleys, the Arnhem area up here, and the Gulf, and the other areas within Queensland. So I'll be concentrating up here. There is a rich history down here and within Tasmania. However, this is where we're going to look at today. Right. Now, the first thing I want to do, when I was doing my learning to fly, we go through basic training of aerodynamics and all the systems to learn to become pilots. And one of the things was, I was in my youth, I was at a class, and like all good teenagers learning to fly, we spent most of the time mucking around. And a friend of mine who's now a Qantas captain, I don't know how he became a Qantas captain, however, he threw a rule at me one day at one of our aerodynamics classes, and the bounce off the wall landed on my desk, and he shouted out, a boomerang just landed on Auchett's desk. And I thought that was quite interesting, because it was just a stick that fell back on my desk. That was the first indication that there was something strange about this wonderful artefact here. And the thing is that after the class, a lot of things happened to me that started making me think about the boomerang. And one of the interesting features about the boomerang is that it's the oldest one we've been able to fly, and it's about 10,000 years old. But the interesting thing about the boomerang, it has these unusual parameters. It's very aerodynamic. In fact, it's an aerofoil in design, and in a lot of ways, engineers would recognise this as being probably, in fact, the Kooris were probably the first inventors of flight in a lot of sense, because actually the thing is actually a wing. And it's a good idea if you've got a bit of time out to go down and purchase one, have a look at the thing. It's actually like a wing. The dynamics of the boomerang are quite interesting. Now, normally they normally call them throwing sticks in a sense, and the interesting process of this is that how do you come to work out the parameters and the requirements of flight when your culture is supposed to be nomadic. And this type of design is a very complex design. And if you don't believe this, go and pick up a book on aerodynamics or how a jumbo jet flies, and discover there's a lot of technology involved, especially when the boomerang actually comes back to you. So this is an acquired knowledge. It's something that you just don't do accidentally. In this regard, when I looked into it a little bit deeper after a few investigations, a few other incidents, I discovered quite interesting facts about it. Some of the interesting facts is that in the standard process we're looking back in history, you would have found that the Kooris would have had throwing sticks to throw at people like we do, like rocks, things of that nature. However, if you look in the random world that we live in, there's no such thing as a boomerang, just like there's no such thing as a jumbo jet. There's no such jumbo jet, pick one off. There's no boomerang tree. So therefore there was some process involved in which the knowledge was passed on to them. At first I thought it was something that they invented, but the literature now tells us that the Koori actually indicate to us that it was passed down to them through the dream time. And through the dream time it was a knowledge that was passed to them by what I'll use the word alien race that visited them in the dream time. And it does make sense because, like I said, it's a random process, and I challenge anybody here to find a stick in Australia, a random stick anywhere in Australia, and chuck it and make it come back to them. The other thing interesting about the boomerang, it's actually been cut to a shape. To get the returning feature of it, they actually do a bit of manipulation of the wings areas out here. However, it's actually a shaped object, so there's quite a bit of thinking goes into it. But the other interesting thing about the boomerang, as you can observe now, it looks like, in fact, it'd be very easy to put the middle here and make it into a jumbo jet quite easy. So it's something that you should look at when you do your own investigations, which I suggest you do, is that this is something that could have been passed down to them. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the Aborigine, their technology. However, in regards to the boomerang, it's a mystery that's still to be solved, because in reality, it's a very aerodynamic object. Now, the other thing that comes up through the Koori, looking at the Koori history, which I find quite incredible, is the religious aspect. And one of the religious aspects that comes up, is featured a lot through the system, is what we call the halo. And I'll just get to this one. The halo is an interesting thing. It's in our religion, you all recognise, you know, the halo is prominent in all our religion. It's usually used to indicate people of high authority or people with of godlike nature. Now, if you follow the Carl Jung's idea about the collective consciousness, the only process I can think of that a halo would be involved. The Kooris have this halo effect on a lot of the Kimberley designs. Now, if you have a look at it and look at the features, the halo runs right through the northern parts of actual the Australian area. So the halo is another mystery that's involved. It's common in Western society, however, there's no real reason why it would be common in the Koori society. It's something quite unusual to have. So there's some link to, if you read Von Daniken and all the other people that use, I don't subscribe to all Von Daniken's theories, however, if you read some of the literature around that, using those type of theories, the halo is another important feature that you should investigate when you do your research into Koori, which is very important. Now, the next thing I'd like to do is that there's incredible artwork up in the north area. This artwork has got some interesting stories which you can go and speak to. This Captain George Gray on the Prince Regent River discovered some interesting areas in the Kimberley district. In fact, you have a copy of it out the front. This is the colour OHP that I've provided for you today. In fact, I'll zoom up. This is an important feature in regards. Please note the halo. The actual drawing is this is a reproduction by by Captain Gray himself out of his journals. The interesting note to this is the halo effect occurring, and he saw that at the front. That's the first thing. The fact that there's black and now the only facial feature is the eyes, which is common in UFO circles. That therefore is a masking effect that goes on. The other thing is the inscription at the top, the ornament at the top in this area here is quite interesting. In fact, if you read his logs when he got back and started to scribe and do the drawings about it, he felt in his gut's feeling was that it actually was some type of literature, some type of not an ornament, but more of a communication process, like a Dunlop sign on your head or something like that, or NASA. He felt in that case it was something that wasn't just a freak accident, but some type of drawing or some type of communication process on top of the figurine. The other interesting thing about the figurine is that, please note down the bottom, the fact that there's no toes visible, and also it's a garment of some sort, which is common in Western society. And down here, you notice that there's a sleeve process, and it's common to our clothing. However, in the Koori situation, if you've ever been out to Arnhem Land, if you've ever been to Kimberley, you'll discover that clothes are the last thing you want on you. It's just hot as hell. This person here is very, very covered. Now, the other interesting feature, if you get your UFO literature about abductions, this feature is a very common feature in Men in Black, things of that nature. These are all speculation. This is just giving you ideas to look at, but it's a very interesting drawing. And the interesting thing about if you speak to people out the bush, when I've been out there, when you're invited to that area, they call a lot of these painting rubbish paintings. Because they indicate that they don't belong to them. It's nothing to do with them. It's from rather than refer to them from the dream time, or from another culture. The general opinion nowadays is that a lot of these drawings, I'll just get another slide, have been passed down by, there's some literature out now that have been passed down by Timorese or visitors from the north that have come in, or Dutch visitors, things of that nature, where they've tried to depict the visitors as most cultures would when they arrive. However, if you speak to the locals in the area, they claim that these are not their paintings, they belong to somebody else. Now, the other thing you see about the Kooris will tell you, passed down through their dreaming and their religion, is that these drawings actually predate their knowledge, and that's a very important point to stress here. Now, when we go back to the dreaming process, the whole principle behind it is that there was a visitation occurred to the Aboriginal people, and this is a summary. Within the visitation, a race from some other location came across the sea or flew in, and there's a lot of stories available on this, but it's either across the sea or flew in, and informed the Aboriginal culture about the laws of the land. Now, this is a common theme amongst our ancient nationalist theorists, that there was some type of visitation going back quite a distance ago where these people were informed. However, it's the interesting process when you look at this, which I find interesting, is that you find this type of process right through the Egyptians, the Japanese culture, the Indians of North America and South America. That there's it has there's the common theme, if you know what I mean, just altered a little bit of the sun god type of thing with the visitation. The other interesting feature to this is that, which I find also interesting, that once the dreaming had occurred, then these people departed. A very important point. In fact, in our Western religion, there is an arrival and a departure. Not like us, where an invasion occurs and we change the culture. There's actually a process of which there's an arrival, a passing of information, and then a departure. And a lot of things occur. All these drawings occur, boomerang, suddenly appear, things that improve their life out beyond reality in these areas. Now, the other thing that comes up in a lot of drawings is the strange little extensions onto drawings that are not. If you look at what goes on, if you see the lifestyle out there, the heat and the way you've got to. When you live out in the bush, your basic requirement is to survive. That's all it is. It's gathering food and then sleeping and gathering food. That's all you've really actually got time to do. There's no time really, apart from some ritual processes, there's very little to do for technology time. We live in a society where we have other people do the farming, and we can sit back and come to lectures like this and travel and have holidays. In a culture where you've got to survive, all you've got to do is look for food and rest and play around, have a very small social gathering. However, we get these type of drawings here, quite interesting drawings. Now, in these drawings that occur, you notice a lot of features here. things that depicted through our Western culture of objects that seem to be in the air. You notice the beaming process here, which is common in a lot of drawings. Again, I'm not indicating to you that these are UFOs. However, if you speak to Koori people, try and get the explanation for these drawings, they can't offer you anything at all. It doesn't belong to their culture in any sense. The other thing that occurs a lot in their culture is circles. Now, this is common in England and in a lot of other cultures around the world, just like pyramids. Pyramids are not just found in Egypt, they're found in China and South America and all those places, in Middle America. One of the other things is circles are a dominant part of their culture. The collective consciousness process may be in operation. I'm not just claiming that theory. However, the most likely scenario, if you want to get down to the simplest process, is that we've been informed about this through another process of visitation. This other diagram here indicates the same thing. These are more what we call rubbish paintings. They claim there's nothing to do with them. These are not part of their culture. In this OHP, I won't give you the locations because they aren't necessary. However, I haven't got enough time to go through that. I should have a map on it. But in regards to this drawing here, I found this one quite interesting because of all the items hanging off the. This is another rubbish painting. The items hanging off the body here, like toggles and bangles and all these bits and pieces, are up in the arms here. This headdress up here. All this strange headdress is not common to them. Also, the features are quite interesting. They're very skinny. Another thing you should note too is the finger count. If you look up here, they count 4 on a lot of them. In some cultures, they count six fingers on the hand. Now, these people depict in their culture they do a normal process of actually putting hands up on the wall and then spitting a pigment up and creating an impression. In these paintings, we seem to be lacking a lot of features which should be there. So there's some interesting processes which we find quite interesting when you do research that they're actually left out. In this one again, I'll zoom up. Hang on, wrong one. I'll just get a zoom up here. This is quite interesting, another one of those rubbish paintings. In fact, in here it's quite interesting. You see the boomerang in this area here, which is quite important for a few of the instruments and arrows. However, over here you can see a strange feature. This hasn't been deciphered in any sense. It makes no sense to anybody. Originally, the drawing thought it was the head actually on an angle, and this was part of the headdress. However, the general opinion when I've had a bit of a check around and asked for more opinion on is that these are actually other features in the background. Now, what's unusual about these figures is that the shade of colour, they're actually white in nature and not darkened out to the normal process. So there's the first thing that you should note in that the painting is not standardised to the local area. It is actually a whitened figure, which is quite unusual. Now, this doesn't mean it's a skin feature. It could be a uniform feature. It's speculation. However, it's interesting to note that it hasn't been blacked out in regards to this. I might also say in a lot of these paintings, when you go up there, and I recommend you go to the Kimberleys around that area if you can get up there. It's just an incredible area. Is that the paintings are in layered formation. As time's gone on, they've been painting over and over on top of paintings. So by using dating processes and looking at the pigment decays, things like that, isotope decays, items like that, they're able to identify which is the original paintings. And the reality is the one over the top here is younger than the one behind, which is the oldest one. The only thing has just been superimposed, but that's not uncommon because there's limited space up there, and the areas have been painted over heavily at time. And in fact, another interesting thing that I discovered when I was up there, if you go to a lot of these areas, our culture is now doing their own depictions, with their graffiti all over the place. So it's another common feature about our humanity is that wherever we go, we like to mark everything. So you'll find that even our teenagers nowadays will face rocks in the Kimberley area, and so it's a common feature about ourselves. So these areas are restricted to a lot of people because of the way we react when we get there by defacing this area or taking a sample. But there's another interesting feature to look at. The other interesting, I'll have to zoom back. Oh no, hang on, I can do that. The other interesting drawing that has been produced here, a lot of these are drawings because you're not allowed to take photographs, some of these are sacred sites, is the two features coming out of the shoulders. The first thing, I think you might agree that they look very much like wings. I can't confirm that, however, we can't think of, when you look at the dances that are available, and I've done a bit of research on this, we have no idea what that could be. There's no actual ceremonial item that could depict that, so it's quite interesting what that actually is. Again, wings are a common feature within our Western society, and we find that in this area. The other interesting thing about the picture that you probably picked up is that it's, from what we gather, a back view. Eyes are not visible, and the other thing is like a banding process at the head here. I just use it, I call it the goggle theory, but there's a reverse goggle theory, because up the top here of the drawing, you notice up here, something like looking at somebody from the rear and seeing a goggle of some sort. Again, all speculation, and it's worth noting that it looks like something you can identify quite easy in our culture. And it's unfamiliar to them, and it's also regarded as rubbish painting. Also, please note at the bottom, again, there's no toes, nothing at all. It's something that probably my child will do. It looks like Humphrey B. Bear's leg, but you notice that there's no toes regarding this. These are other features that are quite interesting. Now, why are these interesting? Because we've now discovered that there's mouths available. In fact, there's a smile on this person's face here, which is uncommon in their process, because a lot of the paintings don't depict smiles or face. In fact, it's quite a happy-looking face. There's another one of them there with big eyes, and over here another mouth available. Please note the circles are prominent throughout the whole drawing process. This last projection here I want to give up to you here is well, I'll leave it on the Zoom because I've got it right there, would you believe? This is out of a cave in the Kimberley district. Please note the radiating rays out of the head. There's eyes on the left feature here, however it's a one-eyed feature, which is uncommon. It's in the standard feature out there was just we usually get two eyes without no mouth. In this case here there's only one eye, and this is a bromide off a paper sample I could get for you, but you can see it's quite uncommon to have one eye, and this one here there's no eye at all. But the other thing you should note here, and I'll let you count them up, but if I'm not incorrect here, you notice that the hands, on the fingers, there's more digits than are required. Now, I don't think they're that stupid to do something like that. I can't explain that. Nobody's been able to explain it to me. However, that's another interesting feature to the diagram, the rock diagram. Also, please look at the bottom here. If you look at the original, and again, this picture doesn't do justice. You actually see the original. The best way, you sprinkle water on it, the figurine just pops out of the sky. But actually, in this foot over here, if you have a look at it, I think you can see the top here above my fingernail here. It looks like a boot, and there's like a bit of a heel here. It's quite interesting. And again, it's all speculation because when you're dealing with rock art, it's very difficult to do painting on rock art. However, it's not a common. It's normally they depict the feet, the toes, and that. In this case, it seems to be a boot of some sort. And over here, the same thing occurs over in this area. There's no toes, no other digits, no other features of the leg. It's quite interesting, and it seems to be suited. Now, I haven't got very much time. Again, we're pushing through quite a bit of history. The other thing I'd like to bring up at this stage is what we call Min lights. This is a copy of a Min light that was taken in Western Australia that we had analysed. It's not a very good copy, this is all for video, but I should have bought the video if I had known all this information was available. Now, Min lights are not a modern phenomenon. They've recorded within history, and it's been passed down through generations. Not only have Min lights been passed down over the years, but there's been the bunyip and all these type of strange creatures in the water, which are common, Loch Ness type of common features. And the other interesting feature is like the Bigfoot feature that's also common in Australia. Now these are very unusual. However, if you look, there's lots of good literature on this and lots of new books out. One of the good tests you can do is go and grab a drawing of one of these. We have about 20 on our file. If you match them up to Bigfoot and Yeti and all them, they're very similar in a sense. You'll find that they're very, very close to it. But the other interesting thing, these are cultural things that have been passed down over generation to generation. So you can automatically see that their culture is very similar to ours in some sense. However, the beauty of their system is that after our culture's been raided and raped so many times, we don't know where we've come from. But we've got a very good 50,000 a year continuous line here of uninterrupted knowledge, and in the scientific world that means non-biased knowledge. Now the last thing, if I can speak, I've got a few minutes, is that one thing that I found very interesting when I got more involved with this is that alien abduction is actually a common theme amongst the Koori people. Now it's a little bit different to what we are accustomed to. However, the stories that come through are numerous. However, the general opinion of the stories is that women and children are abducted and are never returned. And they actually give you the story in that sense that there's an abduction occurs, the person's out gathering yams or whatever's available, and they don't return. They know they're very, very well. They go out looking for these people and they disappear. The other interesting thing about a lot of the cases that we get about these people that have collected is that they also indicate that they have been abducted by someone. They actually come out of the sky and grab them. And there's also the underlying connotation about, underlying theme that the abduction is for a species for birth control, things of that nature. Again, I don't want to give that in because I'm not full bottle on it, but there's this very common thing that we have in our abduction theory that runs in theirs. And it's not us influencing them, it's coming from them directly. In fact, they describe some abductions very similar to how we describe them in great detail. So it's very interesting. Now, I'll stop there because I'm going to run out of time to take questions. The only thing I just want to say to you before I go is that I haven't done justice to this because I haven't enough time. It's a very big subject. I've got a paper on it. I suggest when you buy the proceedings, have a bit of a read. And again, I recommend to everybody, don't take my word for it. Go out and do your own research. There's some references in the back of my product. You should go to it in most libraries. However, we should look at their culture. It is a very rich culture and a wonderful culture. Thank you very much.
We'll open up for some questions right now. John?
Yes, Mark.
John, would you put up that picture of the coloured one you showed first?
Yes, no trouble at all.
I've seen this many times because we have a representation. Would you put the whole of it on?
Yes,
we have a representation in our association's display. But for the first time, a meaning struck me that I think you might be interested in. I'm familiar with a body of knowledge that links itself with golden ages of the past and could be a remnant of knowledge of past advanced communities existing on this planet, which contains instruction about a being called the Silent Watcher, who is a divine being and is portrayed as being garbed, which has sandals on, and rays of light emanating from its head. The Silent Watcher, eyes, no mouth. And it's got the circles of light around it.
That's
right. It just struck me.
No, in fact, I'll just say something to Martin. This afternoon when you come to Kelly Cale's case, I'll show you one of the drawings done by Glenda, who was in the abduction. And in fact, I'll bring the slide back and I'll match them up and you'll get the shot of your life. So that's interesting. Okay, yes, go ahead. So I'll take this gentleman.
Yeah.
Sorry.
My question is about that picture too. I just wondered, that's an actual painting that exists on some rock wall, is it? Or
Yes, in the Kimberley area, in fact, there's a lot of problems with this. When he went in there, the actual interesting about the area is, and I don't want to waste more time, is that it's a gallery, and they're set up in an area where they view out into this plain of the desert, as if it's like set up to, you know, like we go to our picture galleries. And the actual, well, they had a lot of trouble finding it, but he had the great opportunity of actually doing the drawings and the colours. The interesting thing here is that he actually did, when he did the drawings, he tried to reproduce the drawings in some detail, and in fact, in my paper, he goes on to describe all the interesting things about them. He found it quite interesting, the size of these things. These are not small drawings. When we do a drawing, we usually keep it within a reasonable distance. You go to your local gallery. These are gigantic features, gigantic objects. And in the dreaming, these objects, when their job's done, their task is over, like Martin indicated, they then go. They disappear into the cave and disappear. And the last person left did the drawings, this is the storyline, did the drawings to remind them of the dream. But you can see it's nothing like an Aboriginal process here.
Are there any actual photographs of that, or do we just have the drawings?
I haven't seen one. I believe there is, and the reason why there isn't, these are very sacred sites, you've got to get permission to go on the sites, and I've had it on a number of occasions with permission being refused. However, I believe, I haven't seen this one, but I'll take your word for it. But yes, I believe from the literature there is drawings, pictures of it. But you've got to discover, the thing you discover when you're out there, you've got to get permission to a lot of these areas, and they're remote areas. This is a very difficult area to get in, and hot as hell, and you've got to have a guide. I guess I'll take a question there.
What do you mean, Lance? Most Australians seem to know what they are, but if you're not from Australia,
this is another lecture. I could go on forever. It's like the UFO process. It's a multitude of possibilities, from swamp gas, the whole gamut. Anything to do with UFOs, in regard to Indian lights. The other interesting thing about Indian lights, which I didn't touch on, they don't just appear in the Queensland area, they appear all over Australia, especially the northern area. A lot of people believe they're birds, a lot of people believe they're owls, a lot of people believe they're insects, a lot of people believe they're birds with fungal growth on them that come up in the night. The piezo effect, I think it is, that's where when you crush quartz, it gives off electricity, and that's like volcanic activity. Sorry, not volcanic, earthquake activity. But nobody's ever seen one. Now, I've got a video which I wish I had because I had the system here. We measured one that was taken in by the ABC, and the thing is pulsing. We did the measurements on it, and this thing is pulsing at a distance. Usually they're too far away to be seen, but the ABC, with their very good cameras, they had a proper camera. We had that analysed, and this thing's pulsing away. And it was the local who was on the station said it's a million light, so we took his word as a million light, and we blew the thing up. This thing's pulsing. I wish I had the video here. I didn't realise all this was available, because the video is extraordinary to see, and we did all the measurements on. But we don't know what causes the light source at all. And also they're very brown lights. When they're in the distance, if you see a street light at the distance, you'll find that it's dispersed due to the air breaking out, refraction and things of that nature. Therefore it streams out. But many lights are, when you're close to them, they're actually, they can be circles within circles swirling around. And I have a very good case here, which is in my report, about a wing commander on the run at the down from Darwin to South Australia to commemorate the bicentennial. 1980, I think it was 88 bicentennial process, and they had one go off right beside their van on the run, and they've given us, I went to investigate that, and they gave us a very good description. That's in the report, so it's worth reading, and that's a very good, and within the circle these balls were moving.
Have you come across any examples of the northern tribes of grey type entities in their dream time, the women's dream time, men's dream time, like the southern tribes?
Well, not directly. However, I think important question. There is two systems here. There's a female dreaming and there's a male dreaming. They're separated. Now, we don't know if it's I don't know because I'm not qualified to say, but we don't know if it's a cultural separation, because as you know, if you look at their culture, they're both separated, but that's not uncommon in our culture too. But no, I haven't picked that theme up at my personal idea, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's there. But the problem with doing these drawings, the facilities available to do these drawings come out of the soil, so when you do the painting, they actually go and look for the soils to do this. So the grey colour may be very difficult to produce, but the main thing to look at is the colours here. It's quite incredible, but I can't answer that to you.
We took as part of an ongoing existing dream time.
Well, the dream, from what I can gather, it stopped in the sense that there was a period where it existed and then it ended, and the information was provided, and what's been passed down is the legend, the culture, the Campbell way of looking at the world, that the dreaming, even though they like we do, we celebrate Moomba and we do all this, we celebrate certain features like our invasion of Australia and Anzac Day. That's what they're actually doing. They're celebrating the dreaming process. But the actual start of the dream time is a period that occurred and ended with their departure. But they celebrated like we celebrate Anzac Day or any function. Just that's the passing of information down. But there is a defined cut-off position when somebody these beings depart. There is another theory that these may be drawings of Timorese people or people from the Captain Cook theory that he discovered Australia is absolute garbage. We had Portuguese out here long before, and other discoverers, the white man. That's the other thing, that they were landing and being shipwrecked on the beach, so there could be a good chance. And a good indication, if you go to Holsworthy, up at just near Sydney, the average, when our first landings, they were out there tapping away and drawing, our ships coming in at that stage to depict the scene. Next one. Yep.
Firstly, the hands are black and the face is white, indicating there may be gloves there on the drawing.
Yes.
Secondly, my wife is a Murray from far west Queensland,
right,
and she has seen the Min Min lights as a small girl.
Yes.
It appears they may be selective because she actually was told by her grandmother not to follow the Min Min lights. It's a warning to all Aboriginal people. And she actually, being 7, ran after them. And she followed them for a period, and then they moved away from her and she couldn't keep up anymore. But she was going hell for leather to try and catch up with it. Now she described it, she couldn't, this is going back, 35, 40 years, she couldn't describe it really in any other way than to say they were beautiful lights. Beautiful lights that you couldn't help but follow. They were just so beautiful, especially to a girl of about 7 or 8. It was just something that you, even though you'd been warned, you couldn't resist. But the interesting thing I found was that she, although they were only maybe 10 yards in front of her for a period, then even though she was running after them, they moved away and didn't seem to want to coax her any further. Well, in fact, in the council, you read them out the paper, you discover that the stockmen in the early days, in the turn of the century, would be chasing them all day, all night, trying to catch them and never get to them. In fact, it's a bit of a joke in that sense, and the Aborigines would look at them, the crew would look at them and think, you're wasting your time, fella. You're after an impossible dream. However, they would approach. In fact, the strange thing you bring up is that one of the other features you discover when you read the literature, this is going back before our, like skeptics will tell you that this is all to do with rocket engineering and all this stuff. This is early literature saying that they felt that there was a game going on. And as far as I'm concerned, a street light, I pass street lights all day and they don't chase me and they don't move away. These are things that seem to be in some type of mindset operating, and like your wife indicated, you can't get them and they're there. But the interesting one in the cases which I recommend you read is the one with the Air Force people, because when they got very close to one, it suddenly appeared beside them and was wheels within wheels. It was a wonderful case and very good witnesses to that one. Yes, that's my life. I'll see you this afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you, John.